Frank's minutes in the rotation. So maybe he can do enough to convince some team out there that they could use a 3-and-D specialist at the shooting guard.
Yeah,
that's obviously wishful thinking, but...
Right, but Courtney Lee's not doing anything on the court. He literally missed a wide-open fast break layup.
This is true.
So I don't see a team wanting to trade him even for a second-round draft pick. You know what I mean? And it just... If we drop him, if we release him, we still have to pay his contract.
Right.
So I don't think that's an option. I would... For the sake of that, here's my question. Would you want to give Courtney Lee 30 minutes a game and take away minutes from some of these younger players, Dotson, Zoe, Frank, or would you rather just kind of keep playing him the 10, 15 minutes that they've been playing him and he kind of doesn't really fit with this team anymore? What would you do with Courtney Lee in terms of the rotations? Of course, you don't want to limit minutes from the young guys, but you still got to make Courtney Lee attractable to other teams, although he has to do that himself by playing well.
Yeah. With Lee, there's probably also an aspect that he needs to sort of play his way back into game shape after he missed, most of the preseason and obviously the first several weeks of the regular season.
That's true.
There's no... we're not at a point yet where you could send Courtney Lee to the G League for injury rehab, so he's got to get his minutes
I wonder
in the NBA.
Right, and I wonder if we weren't thinking of trading Courtney Lee, if coming back from injury, he was a guy that would have to earn his minutes back. Where the only way he gets his minutes is if he shows that he's one of the better guys in practice, or maybe one of the current guys on rotation is struggling mightily, then give Courtney Lee a shot. But I think the only reason he would be getting minutes is because he's a veteran, he has that veteran presence, and we do need to possibly trade him. And we're also going to get Lance Thomas back, and I think Fitzdale wants to play him at the power forward when he comes back. So I don't know what's going to happen with. Fitz's rotations are always fun. It's always interesting to see what he does. It's never no game is the same.
It'll be interesting to look at the lineup data for the different five-man combinations at the end of the year.
There's got to be so many.
Who ended up doing well and who ended up getting minutes together. Because, like I said, it definitely seems like a hodgepodge of different groups. There's no set rotation yet. So,
right. The other possible thing here, I just want to ask you is, we got the resurgent guys, the four guys, Burke, Moutier, Vonleh, and Mario Hezonja. Is it worth benching one of those? I know Burke's already injured, but is it worth benching Mario to give Courtney Lee minutes at a small ball power forward lineup? Put him at the power forward and in a small ball lineup. Is it worth doing that? Fitz supposedly has been playing Mario because of his hustle and his defense. I don't know how much I believe that. Even Clarence Gaines doesn't believe that. He tweeted out that he does not think that's the reason Mario's getting playing time. Is it worth benching maybe Vonleh or Mario or?
I'd bench Mario before I'd bench Vonleh.
Of course. Would you give Vonleh a contract at the end of this year? Do you see him as a puzzle piece to a championship roster?
He would not be someone I would want to spend my cap space on July 1st and potentially take myself out of the running for better players. Right. But if he was still looking for a contract a few weeks into free agency and most of the major puzzle pieces had been filled in, sure.
Do you think he can develop into a guy who averages 10 points, 10 boards, and a block a game?
He's already doing that now.
I don't think he's quite doing that.
Well, and I think in just about any offense, he's not going to be anything more than the fourth or fifth option. So I think the key for him is getting the hustle points on offensive rebounds, knocking down the open three-pointer when the ball swings to him, which he's done so far the last few weeks, which is a fantastic development for him.
He's the only player to shoot 45% from the three-point line and average 8 rebounds a game. Only player.
Yeah, and that's probably not super sustainable, but if he could be in somewhere in the high 30s in his three-point percentage, sort of being the guy, like I said, being the guy that when the ball swings to him, he can take and hit an open three instead of
And remember,
to go back to your last episode, the guy
Ryan,
who that always no, the guy that when the ball came to him that always if he had a 3-point shot would have been able to if he'd been able to take a 3-point shot, his career would have gone much better. Is Jared Jeffries?
No.
Jared Jeffries.
No, there was nothing that could save Jared Jeffries' career. Nothing. Nope. Yeah, I'm sorry. The dude was
I have
like
so many memories of the ball being swung around, good ball movement, and then it would get to Jared Jeffries, and well, then the offense would end.
Yep. The thing about Vonleh is if anyone's going to turn him into a good 3-point shooter, it will be Fitz. He did that with Bosch. He did that with Marc Gasol. And he's not going to do it with Cantor, but he maybe will do it with Vonleh. And teams are leaving him open because no one knew he could shoot the 3 until this season.
Right.
So, I mean, here's my thing about Vonleh. I would give him a contract if it was cheap because he does seem like a really good guy to come off the bench and get you a bunch of boards, be a hustle guy. He's shown when he has it in the post, he has a nice little hook. He does some things well, and I feel like he might be worth it. But I get very tripped up over this. If we look at our future, a future lineup for the Knicks right now looks like Frank, Dotson, Zoe, Hardaway, KP, Vonleh, Mitchell Robinson, and Knox. That's 8 guys right there. You add in a 2019 first-round draft pick and maybe a free agent, a big-name free agent, and I just wonder, is that a championship team? If we swing and miss on a free agent, which we very well might do this offseason, do you think that's a championship roster? I mean, maybe it doesn't sound like it right now because they're all so young, but maybe as they all grow. Because it just feels like to me when I'm watching the Knicks, none of them have that, like when you looked at Donovan Mitchell last year and you're like, oh, you know he's going to be an all-star one day. I just don't get that vibe with any of the guys, Dotson or Frank or Knox or Zoe or maybe Mitchell Robinson I do get that vibe off of, but the other 4 I don't. But again, players take time to develop. Look at Kyle Lowry, who took 4 years and then became an all-star once he went to Toronto after stints with, I think it was Memphis and Houston. So, I mean, do you think, like I said, do you think those 8, 9 guys are championship roster material?
No, I don't.
Do you think they could be in the future?
If they hit on their draft picks, if Porzingis comes back healthy and is an all-NBA caliber player.
Yeah, I already assumed he comes back healthy in this scenario. I assume he comes back averaging 25, 8, 2 blocks, and a 3 a game.
Sure. Obviously, if you added a healthy Porzingis to this group, it would be much better. I think if you hit a home run on this year's first-round draft pick, it would make the team that much better. I can't feel like I can confidently say that. I think they're doing good things and they're not being super Knicksy, it's still a long ways away before I could consider them a championship contender. A lot of things need to go right between now and even a year from now.
So it's going to take more, from what I'm hearing, it's going to take more than just the player development of these young guys. Take the 5 guys that are on the court to end last night's game against the Nets. It's going to take more than just those 5 developing and getting better.
I think so. I think it's no sure thing that they're all going to become good enough that that they would say be role players on a team like Golden State or Houston or Boston. I don't think they're quite there yet, but it's a lot of things that have to go right. It's
right.
Those 5 all developing. It's Porzingis coming back healthy and effective. It's the front office doing their job to make a good first-round draft pick and to potentially lure a all-star caliber free agent to New York this summer, and to honestly to fill out the roster with guys like Noah Vonleh and like Trey Burke, who have been productive for this team.
Let me bring.
is going to have to do their job at the back end of the roster as well.
Look, player development. When we had Tim Hardaway Jr. the first time around, no one thought he was going to be this good. we kind of figured he'd be good, but not what he's doing now, averaging 20 points a game. And arguably, you could say Zoe, Dotson, and let's just talk about shooting guards because Tim Hardaway Jr. is a shooting guard. Zoe and Dotson are probably farther along and better than Hardaway was when Hardaway was their age. Now, granted, I think Zoe and Dotson spent 3 or 4 years at college. I don't know if Tim Hardaway Jr. did. But you could say Dotson and Zoe could develop into a player just as good as Tim Hardaway Jr.
Sure. I'm not saying any of it is out of the question or even unlikely. It's just so many things have to go right for this team that to expect them to be able to contend in the East within the next year or two is a very tall order.
So since you don't think that this is a championship team with the way it is right now, would you be against a trade that was, let's say, and I'm only throwing names out because these are the names that have already been thrown out, and you're my Washington, D.C. guy, so you know these guys, you know Washington, D.C. players better than most anyone else I've had on this podcast.
Sure.
But let's say there was a trade that it was Frank and Dotson for John Wall. Maybe Frank and a 22 first-round pick. 2022. Would you do that trade? Knowing that we need an extra kind of... We need another all-star to pair Porzingis and hopefully another superstar that we land in our first-round draft pick this year.
No.
What if it wasn't Wall because his contract is crazy? I understand that. But what about a player? I'm just saying an all-star caliber player.
If it was, say, if you had asked me if it was a package for Bradley Beal, I could potentially do it. I think Beal's probably better off long term. His contract's not quite so bad. I think he's a couple years younger than Wall.
Right. I'm going to throw out some
names. I think
names.
He's a little better on defense.
Really? You think Beal's better than Wall on defense?
I think so.
Is it just man-to-man defense, or is it, because I thought Wall, he's a league leader in steals.
A lot of his steals come from his athleticism that I'd worry that if the Knicks traded for him, they're paying for his declining years, as they're paying him $40 million plus per year. Right. That as his athleticism starts to decline, those steals don't happen anymore. I think Beal's probably a little bit of a better system defender than Wall is.
Let's. I'm going to throw out some names of guys who you would trade, and I just kind of want to get a feel on what caliber player would make you want to make a trade that involved Frank Dotson and a first-round pick, or Frank Zoe and a pick, or even Knox, or any of our young guys. Now, granted, I would not trade Mitchell Robinson for anybody, not even Durant, but everyone else you can. Yeah, let's say that they're tradable. And same with our picks. Let's just pretend here. But would you trade any of them for Kemba Walker or any combination for Kemba Walker?
No, because you can sign Kemba Walker as a free agent this summer.
Okay, but would you sign Kemba Walker as a free agent for max or close to max? Because that's what he's playing like right now.
I feel like it's almost going to happen. I've had this discussion with other friends that the Knicks signing Kemba Walker would be extremely on brand because he went to UConn and he lit up the Garden at the Big East tournament, and he's the exact type of player I feel like the Knicks would go for to pair with Porzingis. Well, we'll see how he
does. We're recording this before their game against Charlotte, by the way, but we'll see how he does tonight in the Garden against the Knicks.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the Knicks are going to commit max or close to max money to Kemba Walker this summer.
It's definitely a possibility. I think Charlotte fans would love to see him be a Hornet for his entire career.
I would not trade significant assets for Kemba Walker because he's not going to help the Knicks make the playoffs this year. And then there's no guarantee that he would actually re-sign this summer. And it's almost sort of a similar situation to what happened when the Knicks acquired Carmelo. They could have waited for him to become a free agent that summer, and instead they traded all of their young assets for him, and it put the Knicks back behind the eight ball and really heavily reliant on Carmelo to be an all-NBA player and made the team really top-heavy.
I'm going to throw out a few more names here. Would you trade any of the young assets for Damian Lillard?
what's his contract look like?